This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Everybody, Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk with our Sunday stream of consciousness. A couple minutes late, sorry about that. A minute late, I guess. I was finishing up with Mac and Jack on their Sunday football show. Certainly catch them later on. You can watch it in replay after you've watched this show and participated. We welcome everybody who's on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. The people who will watch us later on Roku and any place else this is shared. All the groups, I thank you again. I've been doing that enough lately, thanking the groups for their allowing me to share the show to them. They've been very, very kind, and some of them more than others. And I'll get back to doing a little shout out to some of them as we go forward as well. Here we are, the week before Thanksgiving. Got a little the weekend before Thanksgiving, and we got a little. We're having a little early Thanksgiving celebration here in my home today with the kids who will all be scattering off to their in-laws, as it were, for the actual holiday. My wife and I are going to go out to dinner. So that'll be fun. Hope you guys all have a great holiday as well. We'll get into the college football today. It's getting interesting. I've been rooting for chaos. Chaos is coming. I feel it. We'll talk about some of the games yesterday, some of the close calls. One big upset. We'll get into the NFL. I want to talk a little bit about, the Rams disappearing act. What's the best division in football? And we'll go through our picks and such as well. And we'll look at what happened last week. And in Major League Baseball, we'll get into the award. It's award season, so we'll talk a little bit about that and some of the recent transactions. And then Mark Mancini will join us around 10 o'clock or a little bit after, I think, on the phone today. And we'll see what's on his mind, of course. And we want your comments and everything as well. So let's see who we got with us this morning so far. Rick, good morning. Good to have you with us. Sorry about that little shot I took at Kirk Cousins over on the Mac and Jack show. Good morning, CA. And I'm sure Alan will be with us at some point. I'm hoping Kenny's in for the baseball section. Let me get a little more of my head in here. As we've been going at it, as Rick knows, in our little chat room about Aaron Judge, and we'll get into that later. I do want to mention, as I have on my shows all week, Virginia, as you know, I want to just give it. Hold on, there goes some of them. Shouldn't be playing. A shout out to the University of Virginia, the players that were tragically killed this week, their families, their teammates, and everybody at the school. They did have a memorial service for Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis, and Deshaun Perry yesterday. Their running back Hollins was also injured, and another student who, I apologize. I talked about him a little bit the other night, and I don't have his name right in front of me. So if somebody has it, they can share it. I don't want to leave him out, but they did cancel their game against Coastal Carolina yesterday. Their last game against Virginia Tech is up in the air. So we got to keep things in perspective. We sit and we argue about sports, and it's a lot of fun. But this is a tragedy that happens way too often. And you won't see me mentioning, I mentioned on Wednesday night show, I won't be mentioning the shooter's name because that goes against everything that I believe in. I believe that a lot of these things would go away if we would just stop giving them the infamy that they're looking for. We can report the stories, but don't talk about who they are. That's just my opinion. Anyway, great job there. Rick Sherlock, every time he takes a shot, Joe Cap, I point out he threw 6 touchdowns in one game. It wasn't pretty. How many of those? I'd like to know how many of those passes went end over end. Rick, listen, Joe Cap was a very tough guy. He played in the CFL, right? Before, I think he played for Bud Grant, if I'm not wrong, in the CFL. Played with the Patriots for a year before Jim Plunkett was drafted. Joe Cap was a very, very tough guy. He's played a lot of tough guys in his not stellar acting career, but good man. I remember, too, that there was a story a few years ago, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. There was they brought together a bunch of people. Maybe it was from, an anniversary of that Super Bowl or something else. And Joe Cap at like 78 years old and some other guy got into a fist fight. And I wish I could remember this story. Good morning again, CA. Good morning, Anthony Price. Good to have you with us today, as always. I want to jump into the college football first today, and then we'll go to NFL and Major League Baseball. We can jump around if we have to. It's a stream of consciousness show, but I'd like to try to stay a little bit on topic here. So let's jump quickly into yesterday's college football. Some guys end up getting hurt bad yesterday. Tennessee gets walloped by South Carolina. Bye-bye, Tennessee. Michigan, TCU, this close. Now, again, you won the game, so God bless you. I bet Baylor, by the way. So the cigar box, we had a good day yesterday, 3 for 3. Baylor, I had Baylor getting points at home. I had Oregon getting points at home. They won the game. And I had, who's the other game I bet? It's escaping me now. I know I won. USC. USC in a shootout. A lot of defense being played out there in the Pac-10. So they're a winner yesterday. Losers yesterday, we'll go through the scores in a second. Big losers yesterday, Tennessee's a big loser. Michigan and TCU, a little bit. Those games will be remembered by the committee should they get into some kind of, log jam with these one-loss teams, especially. But TCU's out if they lose their championship game, in my mind. Although Tennessee losing gives them a better chance to be in with one loss. USC's got to win out. North Carolina, another big loser yesterday, losing to Georgia Tech. They still theoretically had a chance if enough things crazy happened in front of them, and they beat Clemson. I would call Clemson a big winner yesterday with the other things that went on, and a big win over Miami. Who else? TCU, again, I called them a loser, but I mean, they're a winner in the sense that they won the game. Because if TCU goes undefeated, there's no way they're not in. So some interesting games. And we'll talk a little too. So we'll go through the top 25. We'll look at the poll a little bit and see what kind of changes we can expect. And I'll talk about the New Year's 6. There's a great race for the New Year's 6. Tulane comes back this week and wins after losing to UCF. Pretty much all the marbles now in that American Conference, which likely will have the winner, but the participant for that New Year's Day 6 position, the best ranked group of 5 team. Big game next week. Tulane and Cincinnati will decide a lot of that and who gets into the championship game. But don't count out Coastal Carolina. They're without their quarterback McCall, but they're still only got one loss, and they're 23 in the AP poll. I don't think they made the playoff poll. And also watch Texas San Antonio sneaking in here late. Possible. Let's see what we got here. Tennessee playing bad will hurt their quarterback draft status? Yes, absolutely. Well, again, he didn't give up 66 points or whatever they gave up, so that doesn't hurt him. But, they lost this game as much with their defense as not. Now, what hurts him probably more, Anthony, is his performance in a big game against Georgia, which was really not very good. I mean, let's see. What did he do yesterday? Any losses for these guys is going to hurt their draft status. A lot of guys have hurt their draft status in this last month, by the way. Hollins has hurt his draft status. Guy I love and talk about here a lot and on the College Football Huddle a lot, Will Levis, his draft status has gotten hurt the last month. Any game One game can really hurt you. Let's see real quick. What was Holland's numbers yesterday? And is it really going to matter? Because he probably threw the ball a ton because they were getting killed the whole time. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 247 yards. Spencer Rattler, if there's a guy who helps himself, Spencer Rattler, 30 of 37, 438 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he helps himself quite a bit here. What else we got here? Mosca got his ass kicked out. That was a guy. I don't know what event that was, Rick, but it was hilarious to watch. Oh, God. Ohio State was close until the end. Yes, Ohio State, I did leave that out. They were losing they were losing at halftime, I know. And Maryland gave them a really tough tussle until they pulled away at the end. I think they won by what they win by? They win by 13 at the end, but big third quarter kind of put Maryland out of it. But Maryland hung tough, outscoring Ohio State in the fourth quarter, but too little, too late. Little Tua played well out there, 293 and 2 touchdowns. I don't know. It's just, things are interesting. We'll go through the scoreboard. Let me get to your comments here. Oregon's going to get back in the top 10, Anthony, for sure. I liked them a lot yesterday at home, getting points. I don't get that. Utah's a good team. I had them very highly ranked early in the season, before the season, I should say, because they lost their first game. But I don't know how they were favored at Oregon. I just couldn't see that. So anyway, good win for Oregon yesterday. Oregon will be back in the top 10 probably, but it's not going to matter. There's really no path to, unless really crazy crap happens, there is no way Oregon's got any path to the Final Four. They just don't. I guess because that is a 2-loss Pac-12 champion getting in. I don't think so. Unless there's a bunch of 2-loss champions, but how's there gonna be? Big Ten's not having a 2-loss champion. LSU could win the SEC. Don't see it happening. I don't know. We'll talk more about that as we look at the standings. Illinois is on the up. They played very well. Bad 2 weeks before this. They're 8-3 now. They had 2 bad losses before this game. Brett Bielema has this team playing really well. They played well enough to win this game yesterday. Michigan was very lucky to get out of this game alive. J.J. McCarthy, he got him in position to win this game at the end, and I thought Jim Harbaugh was nuts for kicking a field goal with 3 minutes, I don't know, maybe it was almost 4 minutes left in the game. But they got the ball back, went down the field and scored the touchdown. But the series before, McCarthy was very, very, very iffy when they had to throw the football. That's going to hurt Michigan later on, whether it be next week against Ohio State. If they should beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten, get into the national championship playoff, it's going to be very hard for that team without better quarterback play from J.J. McCarthy. Carlos has gone easy this year on coaches, but the U is underperforming. Agreed. But look I was high on this team. I'm assuming we're talking about the U. Can't see can you see it down there? Look, Marco Cristobal's not getting fired in the first year of this contract. They have not been good. They got killed again by Clemson yesterday. Clemson looking for style points, so I expected a blowout yesterday. Van Dyke didn't live up to his hype before the year. Heisman Trophy candidate, top 10 draft selection. All that's gone. Van Dyke has lost himself tens of millions of dollars this season. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come back now next year, to be honest with you, if he's going to play or go somewhere else and play. But Miami's been a disappointment this year, but I didn't think Miami. I talked about Miami early in the year when I got excited when they were ranked 14, and I found ways to get them to 1 loss. How stupid does that look now? Those were heart comments. Yeah, listen, Clemson's not done yet. Let me go through these scores real quick, and then we'll look at some of the possibilities, and we'll dive more into this on Wednesday night, of course. So, in the top 25 yesterday, Tulane, this was on Thursday night, though. Tulane just rolled SMU 59-24. Good comeback win for them after losing a toughie to UCF. Still with a good chance at that New Year's Six bowl game. Kentucky gives, I was bet Kentucky yesterday. So every team I had considered, I usually bet 3 pro games and 3 college games, and every game I considered won yesterday. Kentucky was getting 23, gave Georgia a tussle 16-6. Will Levis not great, but they played good enough to keep him in the game. Georgia, who knows how interested they are, right? I'm not going to put a lot of stock in this. Kentucky's had a good team for the last few years. They're very well coached, not taking any style points away from Georgia here. Ohio State 43-30, as we talked about. Michigan ekes out a win against a very good Illinois team. Sorry, 8-4. I said they were 7-4. I said they were 8-3. A couple tough losses recently. Illinois is on the come. Watch out for this team and they still could get to the Big Ten championship game. There's like 4, maybe 5 teams still in play for the west of the Big Ten. Who knows? Illinois gets in there. They might shock somebody, which would really throw things into chaos, wouldn't it? Oh, God. I'm rooting for that. TCU ekes out a win against Baylor. Very strange play call at the end of this where they ran the football with very little time on the clock. They barely got no timeouts, and they barely got their field goal unit on. Great job. Great job. Rick, we talk about special teams and how bad they are. Here's an example of tremendous special teams play on that particular play. And this kid, I think, had missed an extra point earlier in the game. So he had both sides of the spectrum here. When you can rush your team, get set, get the kickoff, and make it, I think it was 40 yards. Great job by TCU to win this game. But they're on the edge, man, every week it seems. South Carolina, we talked about, just rolled Tennessee at home. South Carolina is much better this year. Shane Beamer's doing a great job. Watch South Carolina in the coming years. I thought UAB might give LSU a little bit tougher game, but the LSU rolls 41-10. Still don't think LSU's got any shot at beating Georgia in the SEC championship. USC and UCLA, we got the game we would have expected. The over-under was 76 here. Got scared by that a little bit. 93 is what it went. So I guess it was an easy pick. 48-45. No defense played in this game. Really good, 2 good offenses. Caleb Williams may have put himself in the driver's seat for the Heisman here with 470 yards and 2 touchdowns on a national stage last night. Probably the first time all year USC's been on that stage. So great job. Addison, by the way, the transfer wide receiver, had 11 catches for 170 yards and a touchdown. Alabama, scheduling that football powerhouse Austin P yesterday. They win 34-0. Clemson 40-10 over Miami. DJ Uiagalelei. That's funny. He ran for 89 yards and a touchdown, threw for 227 yards and 2 touchdowns. They need him to play well. And they've got one more conference game, then the ACC championship game. Don't count them out. Oregon 20-17, nice win, giving them a leg up on getting to the Pac-12 championship. Do not think there's no way they get into the conversation for the Final Four. I don't think, unless that chaos that I talked about happens. I'll get to your comments, guys, so put them up there. Rutgers loses big time to Penn State. Penn State 55-10. Any surprise there? James Franklin fans, Penn State fans, 55-10 over Rutgers. What are we doing against Michigan, Ohio State? 9-2, good, looks like a good season. 11th ranked. Can't win the big ones. 2-19, I think, against top 10 teams. Georgia Tech stuns North Carolina. Derek May, who had put himself, I thought, potentially in a position to steal a Heisman Trophy as a freshman, probably has his worst game of the year, 16 for 30 and an interception, 200 yards passing only. Georgia Tech's played much better since they fired Jeff Collins. Ole Miss may be feeling the effects of that Alabama loss, also maybe feeling the effects of being a bit overrated. Loses to Arkansas 42-27. Good comeback for Arkansas, who's not played well here recently. They got their quarterback Jefferson back yesterday, which helped them. Kansas State rolls over West Virginia, locks up a spot in that Big 12 championship game, 48-31. Washington still alive for the Pac-12 championship game. If Oregon should stumble, I think Oregon's got Oregon State next week. Not a rollover for Oregon. So Washington's still in contention for that Pac-12 championship game and the championship. Notre Dame playing much, much better football in a surprise snowstorm. I did not think it was going to be snowing in South Bend, but they ended up playing in a blizzard here in the second half. They win 44-0 against Boston College. Florida State, 49-17 over Louisiana. Florida State playing better helps LSU's resume, by the way. They got to win the championship game, but there's always a chance, and it's getting less and less, that they would be left out with those two losses, but unlikely. And that Florida State loss now they had in week one doesn't look quite so bad as they improved to 8-3. UCF upset by Navy yesterday. Navy playing better ball recently. Army-Navy game is coming up in a few weeks. Army beat Connecticut yesterday as well. They beat UCF. Navy beat UCF 17-14 yesterday. Oklahoma and Bedlam beats Oklahoma State and gets bowl eligible. So that's a big win for Oklahoma to have not had a good season. Oregon State, who I just mentioned, 31-7 over the dumpster fire in Arizona State. Louisville playing much better. Satterfield, trying to think of Scott Satterfield, I think is his name, the coach for Louisville. He was rumored to be on his way out here in September and October. Louisville's rallied nicely. They beat NC State yesterday. They're 7-4 now. And Cincinnati, as I mentioned, big game against Tulane next week. They win 23-3 over Temple. So what do we got here? Wow, that's too funny, Tony. What is wrong with these people? My God. Goodbye, Tony. Man, what is it lately with Facebook, man? That didn't look like a bot either. That looked like a person. I don't know. If you guys read the comment, you can let me know what you think. Manchester. Oh, Vermont. I thought you were out in England again. Good morning, Billy. Good to have you with us from wherever you are. Waldo could be in any state in the country at any given moment. Go Bama. Bama's done, but Bama's got no shot at the Final Four. Again, unless total bedlam happens, which I'm rooting for, not because I want to see Alabama. Somehow, Alabama and Oregon still find a way. They should be done. They should be out of the conversation. Now, if there was 12-team playoff, they'd be in. So I want to see total chaos, and two teams get left out that think they're deserving, and we'll have a 12-team playoff next week. Yeah, don't miss that free breakfast, Billy. So how does all this affect the standings? Or the rankings, I should say. We're gonna get into this a little bit. Well, then we'll get into some football and baseball. Hopefully by that time Kenny's here and we can have a nice little he can make my head explode telling me how Aaron Judge doesn't deserve the MVP. Anyway, college football rankings. Georgia's number 1. They will not fall. Or Ohio State, Michigan 2 and 3. I think they'll stay. TCU, if TCU had played better yesterday, I think they could have moved into the third spot. Probably doesn't matter. Tennessee getting killed at 5, they're done. I would doubt they even stay in the top 10. LSU will likely move. Either LSU or USC is going to be 5 next week. Again, doesn't matter. That will straighten itself out. But, USC needs to be rooting for Georgia to win that SEC, because the problem for the teams they've got to root for Georgia to win, the favorite to win the SEC, and they've got to root for TCU to get beaten by Kansas State in the Big 12. That puts teams like USC back in the conversation, Clemson back in the conversation. Probably that's it. We may be down to 6 teams now with a chance here. Alabama with 2 losses and not getting to their conference champion, you cannot put them in a playoff over a 1-loss Pac-12 champion or Clemson as a 1-loss ACC champion. It can happen. If it does, you will see a 12-team playoff next year. You will see it. Clemson will move up. So you should have, I would think, LSU 5, USC 6, Clemson 7, Alabama 8, Oregon 9, Penn State 10. That's probably going to be your top 10 next week. That's what I would say. And then the rest is going to play out on the field. We're going to have some interesting conversations because you're going to have a 1-loss Big Ten team, either Ohio State or Michigan, who's not going to even play in their championship. You're going to have a 1-loss Pac-12 champion. You're going to have a 1-loss ACC champion. You could have a 1-loss Big 12 champion. This is what I'm rooting for. All of that. I want there to be chaos, and I want these 6 teams to be jumbled together as much as possible. Georgia's in no matter what. They win or lose the championship game. That's these other teams' worst nightmare. LSU beats Georgia. They're both getting into the Final Four. Now, if Illinois wins the West in the Big 12 and beats either Ohio State or Michigan, they could have a rematch against Michigan. We saw what they just did with them yesterday. You could have total chaos. Bring it on. That's what we want to see. Total chaos. Oh, what else happened in college football yesterday that we need to chat about? We talked about that. We talked about the UVA players being honored. Nice. Again, keep these players, their families, their teammates in your thoughts and prayers. It's a tragic, tragic thing. By the way, UNC Georgia Tech beat UNC with their 3rd-string quarterback yesterday. So that's not good. So anyway, lots of good stuff, fun stuff happening here in college football. And if we don't have any more to talk about, that's all I got to talk about. Other than a couple other games I wanted to just mention as we like to talk about the military academies. I mentioned Navy with a nice win against UCF. They may be starting to turn a corner. Coach Ken has had a couple of down years at Navy. He's a great coach. They've had really good seasons under him. They may be starting to turn the corner. Gave Notre Dame a scare last week and played really well against a good UCF team yesterday. Army beats a red-hot UConn team yesterday at home for Jeff Monken, who's actually, again, being rumored to be in contention for the Nebraska job. I think that'd be very interesting to see. And Air Force, Troy Calhoun, one of the most underrated coaches in the country, in my mind. They handily beat who the heck did they beat? Isn't that awful? I wrote it down, can't read it. That's always my worst nightmare, man. I write stuff down. Even I can't read the damn thing. Handwriting. Who was our what would that have been? English when we were a kid? I don't even know where we learned that, Rick. I don't think I was passing any penmanship contest. Come on. Mountain West. Air Force. Oh, Colorado State, 24-12. Not a good team. Air Force, 8-3. Again, Troy Calhoun, one of the most underrated coaches in the country. He's done a great job in his 15 years there at Arizona. And I got some games of note here in the East. Syracuse loses their fifth straight to Wake Forest yesterday. Wake Forest breaks their losing streak. Syracuse still bowl eligible, but it's all coming crashing down here. I mean, I would think if we were 6-5, Syracuse was 6-5. Without starting out 6-0, people would be very, very happy after their performance last year. But I think, being that you started 6-0, it's kind of deflating. They are bowl eligible. You'll see them in one of these meaningless bowl games here coming to you soon. Rutgers gets killed, as we said yesterday, by Penn State. The second half of the second coming of Greg Schiano is not working out so well. As I mentioned Wednesday night, Rutgers needs to get out of the Big Ten. They don't belong there. They're not competitive enough. Now, they have been in basketball the last few years, 3 years probably. They've had a good team in the Pac-10. But football-wise, this team can't compete. They're never going to compete. I think they'd be a better fit for the American Conference, especially with UCLA, USC coming in. There is zero reason for Rutgers to be sending their teams, not just football and basketball, but their women's field hockey teams to the West Coast to play games. Don't get me going on that. All right, let's jump over to the NFL, shall we? What do you want to talk about? You guys bring your topics. I'm going to look at last week's games a little bit. We'll look at the divisions. I want to talk a little bit, and I want your guys' opinions on who, or what, I should say, is the best division in the NFL. I've got a couple of strong takes here, and to me, there's only two choices. And you can make an argument for both of them. So, NFL scoreboard from last week, the Panthers in the weekly debacle that's called Thursday Night Football, 25-15, the Falcons win. The Buccaneers continue to play better, cool off the Seahawks at home. First game in Germany. If this stat means anything, I don't know why they made a big deal about it, but Tom Brady's 4-0 in international games, so maybe he should play on the international football team. I still do not think the Buccaneers are going anywhere. Somebody's got to win that division, so it might be them. I'd pick them not to win it, and it's still possible they won't. This team's going nowhere fast. The Vikings with a nice win, a little bit gift-wrapped by Josh Allen and the offensive line of the Bills, when all they had to do was get the ball out of the end zone and run the clock out. But a nice game for Kirk Cousins last week. Nice game for Cook. Jefferson, one of the great catches I've ever seen. Jefferson showed why I think he's the best wide receiver in football. So a good win for the Vikings. On the road, doesn't matter how you get it. Your record is 8-1. That's what your record is. Bills get a break this week, too, going to Detroit to play, I think. They play inside. They get to stay there probably and not even move because they're going to play Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. A little surprised at the way they didn't get out of town earlier. There was some talk yesterday. The game still may not happen because the team couldn't get out of town. Talk more about that in a minute. Titans 17-10 over the Broncos. The Broncos are just awful. Another not good game by Russell Wilson. Completed 50% of his passes. 40 years ago, that had been a great game. Not now. Chiefs beat the Jaguars 17-7. Jaguars, they play tough as they have most of the year. Good game for Kirk, by the way, for the Jaguars, but they could not get out of their own get into the victory circle. This is a team that is playing really good football, needs to learn how to win. Dolphins roll over the Browns. I'm having to kind of eat my words about Tua and Jalen Hurts, by the way, even though he lost last week. Tua's staying hot, man. He is the MVP, the offensive MVP of the NFL, I think, at this juncture. And I did not think this would happen. He's completing over 70% of his passes, guys. Accuracy is where I said he would hurt. I'll get to your comments here in a second, too. The Giants continue their winning ways, go to 7-2, game behind the Eagles, and they beat the Texans, who had to beat 24-16. Another big game for Saquon Barkley, 152 yards rushing and a touchdown. Slayton gets 95 yards and a touchdown for the Giants. They need somebody to step up and be a go-to guy because their skill position players at the wide receiver and tight end slots are not good. Daniel Jones has done a great job this year with very limited weapons. The Saints get beat by the Steelers at home. Nice win for the Steelers, I guess. Both teams are not having good seasons. I'm sure the Steelers were buoyed by the fact that Harris went for 99 yards on 20 carries. And Pickett, while he didn't play great, he was effective enough to win the game. The Colts, somehow, with Jeff Saturday, beat the hapless Raiders 25-10. I bet the Raiders last week. How do you lose to the Colts with everything going on there? Surprisingly, Matt Ryan back in the lineup last week after it being brought up that he was not going to play anymore the rest of the year. So very interesting move there. Also, the Colts are being investigated for the Jeff Saturday hiring and potentially violating the Rooney Rule. The worst rule in football because nobody abides by it. They bring in people for token interviews and then they just Packers with a nice win at home, 31-28. They've kind of, for those of you who thought they were going to get on a run, they've already lost this week on the weekly debacle of Thursday Night Football. But a nice win over the Cowboys last week, 31-28. Aaron Jones rallies his team nicely. Aaron Jones with a nice game last week with 138 yards and one touchdown. And the Cowboys again find a way to lose with Dak Prescott having a really nice game. The Rams and Cardinals, what a mess the NFC West is, right? The Rams lose 27-17. The battle of backup quarterbacks here is as McCoy played for the winning Cardinals, Colt McCoy, and John Wolford from Wake Forest University was the starting quarterback for the Rams in this game. So I believe Matthew Stafford is back today, though. Finishing up with the Chargers losing to the 49ers. They did cover 22-16. 49ers trying to figure out how to use both McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, two of the best weapons in the NFL. And if they can get it going, I'm not a big fan of the 49ers, but every time I bet against them, they win. I did get a cover here. And the team formerly known as the Redskins, where's Alan Perales today? Knock off the Eagles, 32-21 last week. A great performance. Good game by Tyler Heineke, and Heineke, sorry. And Terry McLaurin, who's one of the underrated wide receivers in football, 120 yards on 8 catches. They played really good. The Eagles, for whatever reason, got away from their running game early. Maybe expose his team a little bit. We'll see. They're still the best record in football and still, to me, they're the odds-on favorite in the NFC to get to the championship or the Super Bowl because who else is going to get there? Oh, what do we got here? There's Mr. C.A. C.A., are you in both your names today? You are. OBJ comes home to the Giants. Possibly. He's narrowed, I think, his selections to the Giants, the Bills, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. Where's the best place for him to go? Listen, if you're rolling the dice with him, whoever takes him, great talent, behaved himself basically when he got to the Rams last year, but he had some troubles in Cleveland before that. So if you're the Giants, do you want to go through that again? Daniel Jones needs the weapons. You might want to roll the dice and take a chance. I don't think they want the Cowboys to get him. If the Chiefs get him, how good is that passing game again? Chiefs are still a really good football team, guys. So OBJ is kind of a roll of the dice because you don't know which one you're going to get. The one we've seen almost every other place he's been, or the one you get the second half of the season last year with the Rams. Good morning, Drew. Good to have you with us. If you go purely by the record, you're right. These are both the best divisions, and I would argue they are the best divisions. And the records are all we have to go on. The records are, you are what your record says you are, as unfortunately was said by one fat bastard that we don't want to mention his name. So I don't know how you make an argument. Everybody talked about the AFC West and the NFC West. They're awful, except for the AFC West, except for the Chiefs at 7-2, and the Chargers, by the way, who have done a good job, and Herbert's done a great job keeping this team alive without his best weapon, Keenan Allen, for virtually the entire season. Mike Williams, for at least the last couple of weeks, if not 3 weeks. So he's done a great job of keeping the team afloat. But they've also got some other problems on defense. Their defense is not playing as well as they were advertised as well. So this team, this division, and the Broncos and the Raiders are just, again, dumpster fires. It's terrible. So that's all I can go by, Drew. I mean, would you argue that there is a better division? And I would argue, and again, I'm biased, I understand. I'd argue it's the AFC East. You can make an argument for the NFC East as well, because I had said before the year I thought the Giants would do well this year. I thought they finished second in that division. I thought the team formerly known as the Redskins would win the division. And if the playoffs started now, which they don't, I understand, you have the whole AFC East is in the playoffs as of today. Only two other teams got a shot. The Chargers and the Bengals, who are both 5-4, like the Patriots are. The Patriots win whatever tiebreakers they win at this point. Again, a lot can happen in 8 more weeks. Same thing in the NFC, though. Right now, the team formerly known as the Redskins are a half game out of the playoffs. I can make an argument. All four teams in both those divisions get in. Now, is this a reflection of those teams being that much better, or how bad the rest of the league is? Because there are some bad football teams out there. I mean, bad. I'll give the Browns a little bit of credit that I think they might be better than 3-6. The Steelers are awful. The Colts are awful. The Jaguars are playing good football but don't know how to win. The Texans are awful. The Raiders are awful. The Broncos are awful. Every team in the NFC North is awful except the Vikings. Every team in the NFC South is awful. The Cardinals are awful. The Rams are awful. That's like 14 really bad teams. NFL, fix this. This is bad. There's so many bad matchups every week. It's awful. Merry Christmas to the Cheeseheads. CA must be on the road yet, as we're seeing them in two different usernames here. Drew, Giants may have been premature trading Tony. I agree with this. They're stuck with Galloway. They had some issues, Galloway, and listen, he's on his last legs, this guy. I mean, this is his chance to shine, and he can't do it now. He's never going to do it. And Tony, I know they had some issues with his attitude. There was some other things going on, and they couldn't have put him in a better place for him to shine. And he's going to get a chance now with Juju Schuster hurt. Tony, I had him on my roster in a couple fantasy leagues too, and dropped him. But he's got a pretty good shot at being a very productive player out there in Kansas City in that offense. I think it's just the Giants might have been, maybe they should have. Again, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. I do know they weren't happy with his attitude, even into last year. And the new coaching staff obviously gave him a chance, especially with the problems they have at wide receiver, and he doesn't capitalize on it. Saturday's been taking a beating. Does the head coach need to be a play caller, or is a great leader okay? Assistant coaches should run the game anyway. I don't necessarily disagree, Rick. And he hasn't done it anywhere else. I think the big argument is, first of all, the way they went about hiring him. I mean, he's basically Jim Irsay's drinking buddy. He was on this team for a long, long time, a great player, an all-pro player, a great leader on the field. Can he carry that over to the coaching staff is not a given. Little surprised at the reinstatement of Matt Ryan, because that was theoretically Jim Irsay's call to sit him the rest of the year so they didn't have to pay him certain incentives should he hit some milestones. Plus, he was going to get killed out there with that offensive line. So we'll see. They're 4-5-1. I counted them as one of the really bad teams, but Jonathan Taylor gets himself righted. Matt Ryan continues to be a leader at quarterback, and Jeff Saturday, yes, there are many times, not as much today, because coaches want to take, more control over things. But many times in the past or in the history of football, head coaches have delegated most of the play calling to coordinators. And they're often just a CEO out there, right? And it's possible that Jeff Saturday will work out. I'm still not sold. I mean, it's the credentials that he had, and it was just the way the whole thing came down seemed a little weird. But who knows? Maybe he'll make everybody look silly. Every week, Drew, and this first came up for me like a couple of weeks ago, I think, when they were like 6-2. I think they went 1-1 their last. I think they were 6-2 when I noticed this. I was going through the standings one day getting ready to do this show or another show, and I didn't even realize they were 6-2. I thought that whole AFC South was like the NFC South. Tannehill is not a good quarterback. He doesn't have many weapons to go to when he's throwing the football. They've got a great running back in Henry. Their defense is okay. I love their coach. Mike Vrabel's a great coach. You talk about a guy who's a leader, similar to Jeff Saturday. And listen, I've heard Mike Vrabel's name brought up, comparing it to the Saturday hiring. But listen, Mike Vrabel had lots of experience on coaching staffs around the league. So it's a little bit different than the Jeff Saturday hiring for sure. Good morning to Neil Bush in the room today. Titans win because of Vrabel and a great quarterback or running back. Well, there you go. It's kind of what I just said. They do have a great coach. Vrabel's a great coach. He's got this team further than they should have gone pretty much every year. They're not getting to a Super Bowl as long as Tannehill's a quarterback. They're just not. And I don't know that Malik Willis is the answer, but we'll find out. It's a little early to give up on him, obviously. But there's a reason he fell as far as he fell in the draft. So, I don't disagree with this comment at all, as I kind of just said. Great running back, needs to stay healthy, but that's only going to take you so far, right? I think about teams like going back in time, that they had great running backs and they didn't have the rest of the pieces on offense to be able to get over the top. The Bills in the 70s with OJ, sorry, I know he's a pariah now, but he was a great football player. The Bills had really good teams and really good coaching, and they had OJ, but they couldn't get over the hump come playoff time. They've made the playoffs a few years in a row in the 70s and were competitive in a few other years. but they didn't have a quarterback. Joe Ferguson became a decent NFL quarterback, but at the time he was basically just a game manager, and they could not really throw the football when they needed to. So they would make the playoffs, but then get knocked out. So, and I'm sure we could come up with 100 more examples. How about Eric Dickerson and the Rams? Might even be a better example, right? You can win the regular season, but you're not going to win Super Bowls. Vrabel's done a good job to win as many playoff games as he's won with the Titans, I think. Titans and Giants are in the same boat. I disagree. Well, I don't disagree with the entire statement. Once their running back goes down, and I do not think – there's no reason to think. First of all, we don't know. Does a heavier workload lead to potential injury? Absolutely. What I'm more worried about in the Giants case – and worried about, is a relative term. I'm not a Giant fan by any sense. I do spend a lot of time defending them and the Jets. But they've used Saquon Barkley so much, he may wear down in the second half, which will hurt them. And Daniel Jones has played great football, Anthony, with what he's got to work with in those wideout positions. Played great football. You can't argue that. Giant fans, again, if this guy were a late second-round quarterback or pick in the draft, you would be loving him right now and his growth. But he gets picked 6, and he's got to pay the penalty, which is not his fault. I have to be pleasantly surprised at Justin Fields' adventure. He's a more well, he's not going to be the MVP of the league, but he has played well. He doesn't have the weapons Tua has. They keep trading guys away from this team, not adding to it. What's happened here in my mind, Drew, and I think when you first saw it, if I'm not mistaken, the first time we saw it was against the Patriots. They let Justin Fields do what he does best, which is improvise, run the football. I mean, he's run for 100 yards, I think, a couple of times or close to it. Maybe once. I thought he had 150 against the Patriots. I think he had 80-some. Problem is, as you said, lack of weapons and guys who play this type of game. He'll be I think, and I always thought he'd be a really good quarterback in this league if they didn't ruin him. First, because they kept Nagy his first year for no other reason. The problem is he's going to be a really good quarterback like Lamar Jackson. They don't win. Those teams don't win Super Bowls. Teams, quarterbacks run as much as these guys do, don't win Super Bowls. And I would, and I guess you could put Josh Allen in the same grouping, but I don't. Josh Allen feels like a different. And I know it would happen in some circles when I say this. It's ridiculous. It's not meant in any way, shape, or form the way some people will take this. Josh Allen, I don't put in the same category as Jackson and Fields because he's a better thrower. And I do think he will stop running the football at some point in his career, maybe when the Bills get a running back and take that pressure off him. But I think he's a better pure passer, at least at this point in his career, than those other two guys. But you're right, Justin Fields has played well. Whether he's a recent MVP, what are we talking about? The last 4 games? I mean, I'd have to look at other guys' 4 games. Plus, well, it's a little bit different. If we're talking about valuable, again, we're going to get into this a little bit when we talk some baseball here in a few minutes. Valuable means your team's winning games. I mean, Chicago's not really winning games. Lost 3 in a row since they beat the Patriots. Solid in the trenches are the Titans. Good point, CA. And again, that's where games are won and lost, really. Offensive and defensive lines. It's not a cliche. It's a realism that games are won in the trenches, and the Titans win there. But it doesn't get them over the top because they don't have the talent level to get over the top, especially at quarterback. Anthony, Drew, I think a wide receiver should win the MVP this season in my eyes. Again, well, that's kind of a broad statement, though, Anthony. Who and why, right? It depends on the team we're talking about. To me, most valuable needs to be somebody who really helps their team to victories, and they win more than they lose. So I can't just say a blanket statement. You got to. I don't know exactly who you got in mind. Jefferson would be a candidate in my mind for sure. He's the only one that stands out in my mind right now is Jefferson, which I'm sure Rick will like to hear. Fields will not last with his style of play. Well, Lamar Jackson's lasted so far. It's not, to me, it's not so much that you won't last, which you certainly, Rick, put yourself out there with a much higher risk to get hurt. But to me, it's more of a question of, will your team win the ultimate prize with that style of play? And I think the answer is no. Nobody has. Name me a team that's won with that style of play from their quarterback. Won the Super Bowl, by the way. Baltimore struggles even in the playoffs when they get there. So, yes, you put yourself at risk of injury for sure. But Fields is probably the first quarterback from Ohio State who can play in the NFL. Yeah, he still needs to show me he can throw the ball more. And if he does, I like Justin Fields. I've talked about Justin Fields. If you followed my show long enough, either this show or the College Football Huddle when he was at Ohio State, I was watching Justin Fields before he got to Ohio State on the show QB1, which I don't think they're doing anymore on Netflix, but I've always said go back and watch it because you'll see the senior years in high school of a bunch of these highly recruited quarterbacks, and Justin Fields was I don't know, I don't remember what season, 2 or 3, along with some other guys. Sam Hartman from Wake Forest was there. Jake Fromm was one of these guys from Georgia, and some others. And it was a really, really interesting show. And I've been high on Fields for a while. And you're right. Ohio State quarterbacks don't make it. We'll see. CJ Stroud's going to be the next one who gets drafted really high. And we'll see if he can continue. Yeah, Tyreek. See, Jefferson, I'll give you, Anthony. Tyreek Hill, maybe. But I think Tua's going to win. I think Tua's the MVP. And that's certainly something coming from me because I've done nothing but bash Tua since he came in the league. I didn't think he was accurate enough. He's completing 70% of his passes. Now, his wide receivers have something to do with that. I will give you that. And it's quite possible maybe they split the vote and somebody else sneaks in there. I love Jefferson, though. Jefferson, to me, is the best receiver in football. Kenny's lying in the weeds waiting for baseball. Oh, there he is. Good morning, Kenny. Right on cue, Kenny comes in. Let's get to our picks. If you guys got some more football comments, put them up there. We'll get to our picks, and then we're going to jump into some baseball before Mark Mancini comes in. Then we can jump around a little bit. But I want to get into the award winners in baseball. I know Drew I'm sure would like to cover that, and I'm sure we're going to get into a spirited debate, and I'll try to move it along. We'll probably keep going back to the same question over and over. I'll warn you ahead of time because I'm not letting go of this one. I got like a bone, man. A dog hasn't eaten in a month. Let's look at the standings. Should I share this? You guys want me to share this thing? I don't know if that helps you or not. I'm going to share it anyway. Let's see how I can do here. We'll get to the picks. I'll give you a little window into the where we stand, everybody stands, and how's this look? Have I got the right? All right, we'll do it this way. So anyway, hello, Kenny. Good to have you with us. Hold on before I get in here. Mahomes in the AFC. Yeah, again, I wouldn't argue with that. And Barkley in the NFC. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. Do they have individual player? I thought it was just the league MVPs. And they have 100 awards in the NFL, so it's hard to say. But we'll get into that conversation just a little bit. So I'm not sure how much you can see this, guys, but we'll do it anyway. Here's our leaders. S. Cross, still don't know who you are, man. I hope you'll speak up. You're winning right now with 77 wins. Great job. Excalibur 73. You got ahead of me because you picked a winner on Thursday night, and I did not. TGI Sports Talk on a nice run here, at least in this league, not so much in Drew's league. 72. And speaking of Drew, he's at 70. Waldo, 70. Good job, Billy. Picking the Jets every week and then winning helps. Alan, the Boomer Sooners at 67. We don't know who this ESPN fan is. Headless Horseman at 63. Retired pot smoker has quit playing. I believe the Mad New Yorker should quit playing. I think Perth Red Raiders quit. That's Rick. So we won't cover any more of those. So let's go through my picks for this week, and you guys will see where I am. I did jump on the Packers like an idiot at home, I think, and they get a little momentum from that win against the Cowboys. Bad choice. I'm all over the Falcons at home this week, as well as Josh Fields is playing. Don't necessarily like them on the road. The Falcons have played decent football. Mariota, up and down. I got to pick somebody, and this is a coin flip game for me. I'll take Atlanta. The Bills, 9.5. This is an interesting game. I mean, obviously moved to Detroit. The Bills, while you say they're disrupted, they lose a home game. I think playing inside on that fast track will be really good for the Bills. And they get to stay there through Thanksgiving because they played Detroit on Thanksgiving Day anyway. What I was a little surprised at, they made a decision to move this game, I think, Friday at the latest, where they still, I thought, had plenty of time to get the players out. Why wouldn't you get the players out of town before this snowstorm got to its peak yesterday? Now there was worry yesterday that they were even going to get there. Kind of silly move on the team's part, I thought. Once they knew they were going to Detroit, I don't know why they didn't just go. But they did make it. And what's that? Drew's texting me something. Did I leave somebody's comment up? Yeah, the thing is I can't see my screen when I go to I got you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Drew. Yeah, because when I'm looking at this, you guys see me. I can't see you anymore. So anyway, I'm going to take Buffalo minus a 9.5. I don't know what the Deshaun Watson situation is. I think he can come back this week. I don't know that he's playing. I don't care, to be honest with you. The guy hasn't played football in a year and a half, a season and a half, and he's going to have to shake some rust off, even if he does play. I haven't looked that close enough at that game. I wouldn't bet it with money, so I haven't looked that close. So it's possible Deshaun Watson will get some reps today. I'm not sure if they activate him. The Eagles, I think, will go to Indianapolis and put a hurting on the Colts. Worst time the Colts could have played them. I guess we'll find out whether the Colts can get turned around under a guy like Jeff Saturday, who's going to step back, designate jobs and play calling and everything else, basically, except leadership, to people around him. Whether Matt Ryan has something left, I think the Eagles are going to be very mad, and I think they will win this game. Patriots at home against the Jets. They beat up the Jets just a couple of weeks ago at the Meadowlands. I expect the Jets to play much better this week. I think they'll keep Zach Wilson in control, put him in a better place to succeed. But I think the Patriots just are, and this is a very important game, by the way, playoff-wise, momentum-wise, whatever you want to call, everything you can talk about. This is a big game, as big a game as the Jets have probably played in a long time. And this is going to set the tone for both of these teams for the remainder of the season. And it's important in the division, in the conference, wild card. Both these teams are in the playoffs right now. And I think it'll be the Patriots. Big surprise. I'll pick them just because I think they'll win the turnover battle and make less mistakes than the Jets. The Rams and the Saints. Who cares, right? I'll take the Saints only because they're at home, and the Rams are just an absolute dumpster fire, which seems to be my new term these days. The Giants at home again against a bad team, only a 3.5-point favorite. These games are so – I bet the Giants for the first time in forever last week because they were only 5 over the Texans. They're only 3.5 over a 3-6 Lions team. I'm all over this team today, I think. The Ravens 12.5 against the Panthers at home. I'll lay the points here. The Panthers, I know, have played better football than we thought they might once they fired Matt Rule, but they're still a bad football team. Can't figure it out at quarterback. I don't know. The team formerly known as the Redskins coming off a high. Hopefully they don't have a letdown against a really bad Houston team on the road. Some people will say, yeah, well, they got a fighting chance because of David Mills. This isn't a good team. This is not a good football team. You got one win. You're not a good football team. I think the Redskins will win this. And by the way, talk this week about, a little bit of a controversy at quarterback in Washington. I don't see how there's any question who should be playing quarterback. Carson Wentz should not see the field unless he has to. And another game that who the hell cares? I'm going to go with the Raiders again this week, getting 2 on the road against Denver. This is a team. Listen, both these coaches could be one and done here. Nathaniel Jesus, just lost his name. Nathaniel Hackett has been a disaster for the Broncos, and I think they brought him in there thinking they could lure Aaron Rodgers and potentially Devontae Adams with him, and it didn't happen. And he got stuck with a used up Russell Wilson. At least the Raiders have got a younger, healthier quarterback in Derek Carr, who's certainly not a world beater, but I will take him. The Vikings, I may bet this game, Rick. Only they're going to get points at home, only half a point, so it's really pick 'em. They still got to win the game here to cash, but I like this team a lot. The Bengals, who the hell knows from game to game what they're going to do. Hang on one second. Distracted somebody. Oh, I guess that was just yours. I didn't open it. The Bengals up and down, offensive line's atrocious. Jamar Chase, they need to get back to have any chance to be competitive here in the rest of the season. And they're going to be battling for that last playoff spot with the Chargers and the Patriots and the Jets. And it's going to be quite a battle in that AFC. And I think the Bengals will handle the hapless Steelers this week. I'm going to take the Chargers, getting almost a touchdown at home. Possible Keenan Allen and Mike Williams play today. Questionable. They won't be in my fantasy lineups, I can tell you. But I do think if they get back on the field, there is no way this team is a 6.5-point dog to a team I love. I love the Chiefs. Chiefs may very well win this game, but I think the Chargers will keep it close. Same with the Cardinals. I'm not willing to give up 7.5 points at home to a team that has the potential to play good football when their head's in the game, when they understand what's going on. I'm going to take the 7.5 with the Cardinals at home. So there's my picks for the week. Let's get to your comments, and we'll move on to some other stuff here. Stop screen. All right. So what do we got here? What'd I miss? We saw this. Mahomes in the AFC. I don't disagree with this comment at all, by the way. And also, Judge, we're going to talk about Judge here in about 2 minutes, by the way. Heavy coins in mainstream sports media unpack. What the heck are we talking about there? Oh, on the Packers? Yeah, me too. Deshaun back week 13. There you go. Thank you for that update. Here's the thing. You can sit there and say, you're hosting the show. You ought to know this. I could care less about Deshaun Watson. I am not looking for information on Deshaun Watson. I will not watch Deshaun Watson play unless he's playing my team or he's in the playoffs, I guess. I have zero use for this guy. I don't care if he ever plays in the NFL again. I don't care if he comes back and plays like a combination between Johnny Unitas and Tom Brady. The guy doesn't belong in the NFL, and I will stand by that forever. I could care less about Deshaun Watson. He's over here in my Kyrie Irving bucket. Kyrie Irving's a better human being than frickin' Deshaun Watson. Hello, Augustine. How are you? We got through our college, but congratulations to your Oregon Ducks yesterday. I did bet them, and they're one win away from being in the Pac-12 championship. Unfortunately, as I've said, they're likely out of the total race. I know. I do this all the time. It's funny you say that, Drew, because I actually said this about something else walking by myself about 5:30 in the morning one day this week. I don't know what it is. I was getting coffee, and I said it. I couldn't care less. Or I said I could care less. Well, wait a minute. That means I don't care less enough. So thank you, Drew. Our weekly Keith correctional, which is certainly well needed. Totally agree on Watson. You talk about bad acts, man. The NFL missed the boat here. They missed the boat big time. You guys, we can bounce back to this, but I want to get into this conversation because I know Kenny's sitting over there just licking his chops. And I know I'm going to get some backing here from the rest of this crew. And if I don't, that's fine, because I love going it alone. I want to look at the award winners in baseball. And I'm going to go quickly through a couple of these, and I'll stop with the one. I'm not the American League MVP is going to be last. So give you guys a couple chances to put up comments. And I'll say that there's a lot of factors, and it isn't just Kenny. There's a lot of factions out there who think Ohtani, I know how Neil feels, should be the MVP. First of all, you need to look up the word valuable and what it means. Anyway, we'll get to my comments in a minute. Let me go through some of these other awards, and you guys can put up your comments about any of these. I want to get them out, then we'll talk about them. Anyone you want to talk about, I'm going to spend most of my time talking about one. In the National League, the MVP goes to veteran first baseman Paul Goldschmidt. I have no problem with this selection. I have no problem with most of these selections. Maybe none of them. He gets his first MVP award. Congratulations to him. Justin Verlander gets a Cy Young in the American League. Sandy, I know I'm going to say his name wrong because I've been corrected and I don't remember exactly what the correction was. I'll say again, Alcantara. He wins unanimously, which I'm a little surprised at the unanimous part of this. He's the best pitcher in the National League in my mind, but there were some other guys that deserve some consideration, but he does win this pretty handily. The American League Rookie of the Year, no problem here. J-Rod from the Mariners had an absolutely tremendous year and only going to get better. He's just a baby. The Rookie of the Year in the National League, Michael Harris, who didn't even come up until late May, I believe, middle to late May. 19 homers, 20 stolen bases. I hate it when they put all this war crap in here because I'm not going to read it. Great job. He beats out his teammate, Spencer Strider, for this pitcher, Spencer Strider, for this for this award. The Manager of the Year, no arguments here. I mean, I might, in the American League, Terry Francona, I could say surveys from Seattle was worthy. Dusty was worthy. But I can't argue with Terry Francona. Manager of the Year in the National League, no-brainer again, Buck Showalter. Changed the culture of this team. I know they had a flame out in the playoffs, but if you told any Met fan back in March that you were going to lead the division for most of the year, finish a game behind, win 100 games for just a third time in your history, you'd have been pretty happy. The Calente Award, by the way, went to Justin Turner, who I think is very, very deserving there. And the Aaron Awards, which I believe go to the best. And again, you want to make an argument for Ohtani here, you can make it. I believe, and Drew, you can correct me, I believe the Aaron Award is for the best offensive player in baseball. So Judge and Goldschmidt win those awards as well. So I know, now I'll start the conversation about Aaron Judge and Ohtani. And I'll get to your comments here in just a second. Let me do a little preface, and we'll talk about this until whatever Mark Mancini rings in. Valuable means you helped a team achieve something. What value? That's what's wrong about that value. How valuable is Ohtani to a team that won 73 games? That team, you take them off and they're going to win 73 games probably, or 70 or 69, but who cares at that point? 73 and 80, I can't do the math. 73 and 84? Come on. So he's a great athlete. I would argue that Aaron Judge is a better player than Ohtani, by the way. And I've heard comments, sorry, Kenny, 1 year wonder for Judge. Judge has been in this league 6 years. He's been in the top 5 4 times. And in the top 12 another time. Top 5 3 times. I should bring up this. I had him the other day when I did a vlog about this. He's won an award. He's been in the top 5 at least 2 other times, maybe 3. In the top 12 another time. In 6 years. His numbers dwarf Ohtani's numbers over that time frame. Ohtani's a great player. His numbers in his good years, the years he's been healthy. This isn't about playoffs. This award has nothing to do with the playoffs. It only has to do with the regular season in baseball. Now, you want to change what the award criteria is and vote after the playoffs? Fine. How does I atone? Boy, you got me so excited. Ohtani's go up anymore when he's not even in the playoffs. So Aaron Judge is going to get penalized because he doesn't do well in the playoffs. But Ohtani, who can't even make the playoffs, his stock goes up. This is something I'm very passionate about, and it's not because it's Aaron Judge, by the way. It's not because it's the New York Yankees. If this were reversed and Aaron Judge had this season with the Angels and Ohtani had his season with the Yankees and the Yankees won 100 games, 99 games, I might tell you Ohtani's the MVP. I would tell you Aaron Judge isn't. Not on a team that wins 73 games. So before you call me a homer, man. Where are we? You are going to be alone. Because your argument makes no sense. None. Your argument makes no sense, Ken. And again, I don't mean this. I know you don't mean. I don't mean this maliciously. I get passionate, so I'm going to get worked up here. Again, the criteria of the award you're not paying attention to. Postseason means nothing. You can tell me Aaron Judge is overrated because he failed in the playoffs. Has nothing to do with this award. Nothing. Playing and coaching NFL is preached as a privilege, yet hypocrisy everywhere. Just look. Oh, yeah. Well, we can look at. Yeah. But again, the Hall of Fames, great players should get in. We are voting on people's, how good a person they are. I don't really care as far as that goes, but I don't need to be watching and rooting for rapists. Kenny must have some tasty chops if he's looking at him so much. I'll ask his wife. Will have to answer to that. Just the big ones. Not sure what that is. I think MLB got all these awards right. If I got a quibble, it's very, very small with any of them. Judge is also a darn good outfielder. Yeah, I agreed. That's a very good point. Ohtani DHs when he plays on offense. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from Ohtani. I know Neil thinks he's way overrated in the creation of ESPN, but I don't buy into that either. I think Ohtani is a very talented athlete. He does things nobody else can do. Aaron Judge can't pitch and finish fourth in a Cy Young. But I'll pull up the numbers if you want to look at just numbers, because, and again, to me, it's not just about numbers when it comes to MVP. Right? There's been guys who have won the MVP without having the stellar numbers because they were great leaders and they meant a lot to their team. Look at Kirk Gibson with the Dodgers in '88. Look at Willie Stargell with the Pirates in '79. He didn't win 20 wins, number one. 20 plus wins. What does that mean? It doesn't matter, Ken. Again, the criteria we have today does not count the playoffs. I don't disagree with you. I'm not happy that Aaron Judge flopped in the playoffs, but it's not like he flopped all by himself. And that's not what the criteria of the MVP is. It's for the regular season only. Now, as a fan, am I happy with his performance in the playoffs? No. Do I still think he belongs as a Yankee? I do. Because of what he means to this franchise. And you can't get to the playoffs and fail unless you win 100 games or 98 games or whatever they want. Ohtani's never sniffed a playoff in his whole career. That team's won 80 games once. 80 games. I think they were 80 and 82 one year. How valuable is he? Take him off the team, they win 10 less games, they still finish out of the playoffs. Who cares? Well, money's going way up, Anthony. $213 million they could have signed. Well, not could have signed. He turned it down. Probably if they'd gone another year and gone to 240, he'd already be signed. Now they've got an offer in front of him. We don't know what it is. It's probably guaranteed he's going to turn it down, or at least listen to other offers. And I'm sure the Yankees will leak that information because that's what they did in the spring, trying to make the player look bad. Again, I didn't agree with Andre Dawson winning with the Cubs, and he helped me out. 87? How close am I, Drew? They were a last place team, if not last, fifth place. He had a great year. I'd have to go look at some of the other players that were deserving, but how do you give the MVP to a guy who finishes on a last place team? I would never go for that. And Andre Dawson's not the only examples. I think Steve Carlton won the Cy Young and the MVP in '72 when he won 27 games. I think that team finished dead last. He had half of their win total. I never would vote for losing teams. I mean, he might be the MVP of that team. Mancini sent you a picture. Are you being serious? I don't know how we're going to get you. I'm trying to figure out how to get you this cheesesteak, and I'll send them the frickin' bill. I feel you're not in the true sense of the term MVP. I am in the true sense of the word MVP. Most valuable. That means you contribute to a winning team. That means if you took this guy off the team, where would that team be? The Yankees would not have won 98 games without Judge. I would argue they wouldn't have been in the playoffs without Aaron Judge. He carried the team for weeks. Now, apply that to Ohtani. You take Ohtani off the Angels, where are they? They're not any better. They're not. And how much worse can they be? And what does it matter? They won 73 games, so they win 65. Who cares? They're out of the playoffs either way. It's a bad baseball team. So he contributed more to a bad baseball team than Judge contributed. By the way, Judge had one of the best seasons in Major League Baseball history. There's only a handful of seasons. Well, there's only a handful of guys because Babe Ruth, Garrick, these guys had multiple great seasons, right? Mays, Aaron. There's only a handful of guys in all of Major League Baseball who've had better seasons than Aaron Judge had this year. Sorry, it's just a fact. And it's what he brings to that team. He carried them for long stretches when Stanton was either hurt or wasn't hitting, when Rizzo was hurt or wasn't hitting, and when DJ was out. He's carried this team. Don't mention the playoffs because the award has nothing to do with it. Please. And again, you're entitled to your opinion, Ken. I know I'm not going to change your mind. And there are other people that think the same way. Ohtani's a great player. So what? I can handle your position. Can I? What do you want me to handle? Before I say yes, I can't handle your position. I cannot. Again, other guys have won. I'm not telling you Ohtani's a bad player in any sense of the word. One of the best players in baseball. If Judge leaves the Yankees, I hope they find a way to get Ohtani. I'm simply talking about, and I'll compare them because I only compared them outside of this year because, again, my argument is about this year and the MVP of the regular season. But if you want to get into conversations about who's a better player, Aaron Judge is a better player. Offensively, he can't pitch. So Ohtani gets that leg up. You want to compare their offensive numbers? I'll compare them all day. I can't handle yours. I respect your right to have that opinion, yes, but I will disagree with it forever. I'll disagree with any team that finishes under 500. You can finish out of the playoffs and still be, then I might consider you. But you finish 73 and 84, you finish in last place, you finish wherever. I'd never vote for somebody in that regard. Andre Dawson, the year that Drew was talking about, again, I think it was 87, had a great year. Probably had the best offensive year in baseball. There's no arguing that. Was he the most valuable? No, the two things aren't the same. Best player and most valuable are not the same thing. That's my point. And again, I keep taking the playoff. I can't put the playoffs in this one. That isn't part of it. I have to talk to your cardiologist about your antagonists between Billy Carlos and Kenny. No, my cardiologist would tell me to stop doing this show for my health. Hello, Augustin. How are you? Again. No, he can't pitch, but that doesn't make him any more valuable to a team that won 73 games. Ohtani's a great player. He doesn't play the field. They choose not to play him right. Well, then again, lessens his value to the team. Lessens his value to the team. I believe that was an issue Keith had with him getting hurt. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. An issue I had with who getting hurt, Kenny. Kenny and I have been arguing about this for about 4 days now. It does not mean you're a winning team. It just, what is it then? What is the most valuable player to you then? Who is it? You're telling me the guy with the best numbers is the most valuable all the time. And by the way, Ohtani doesn't have the best numbers. He can do one thing that Judge can't. He can't pitch. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, even if I yell, Anthony, it's just because that's my passion. I'm not yelling at you, I promise. I'm not yelling at Kenny. Well, maybe I am. No, I'm kidding. That when I get loud, it's my passion. Anyway, don't yell at you. Did Judge win an MVP because of the HRs or just overall style of play? No, he didn't win just because of the HRs. Look at the guy almost won the Triple Crown. He led in RBIs by a big margin, home runs by a big margin, just missed the batting title. He led in slugging percentage. He led in OPS. He led in runs scored. He led in like 15 different offensive categories. Sorry, I'm getting a little worked up. So no, it's not just because of the HRs. That's a big deal. He just set a record for the American League, and depending on who you are, all of Major League Baseball. for home runs in a single season. And as I just said, Anthony, it isn't just the numbers. It's when he did it. He carried this team for long stretches all year long when Stanton was hurt or not playing, when other guys were hurt or not playing. Carried this team, especially through the early part of the season. No, home runs are not the main reason. Again, go look at the numbers, Kenny. He almost won a triple crown. And it's not being on the Yankees. Yankees, how many MVP awards have the Yankees won in the last 20 years, Kenny? Do you know? I'm going to say one. One. In 20 years. That was A-Rod in 2009. And if I go back, they didn't have MVP winners when they were winning World Series every year in the 90s. Before A-Rod, and again, one of you Yankee fans can help me out here. When was the last World Series? And again, I'm going to say A-Rod was the last one in 2009. And before that, I'm going to say it might have been Don Mattingly in the 80s. It's not because he's a Yankee. You make it sound like the Yankees get MVP winners every other year. They've had 2 in about 40 years. Maybe I'm missing somebody, but it's not a lot. Somebody look that up for me. Yes, they did win yesterday, Augustin. Good win for you. And I bet your Oregon Ducks yesterday getting points at home. So nice win for the Ducks with a chance to get to the Pac-12 championship game. Huge swing games for projections, whether the playoffs in the NFL today. There's some very important games in the NFL. Then there's this second half of the season because and I've had this argument with Carlos. They think people want parity. I want to see a bunch of real good teams. There's 14 bad teams that are awful in the NFL, and some of them are going to have a chance at the playoffs. Well, he's a little better than 250. His numbers aren't bad. Listen, this is one place I do disagree with Neil, and I will agree with Kenny. Ohtani's a really good player. He's a great player. He's a great player. He's a great athlete. He does something nobody since Babe Ruth has done. And I'm not going to disparage that. Because he also finished 4th in the Cy Young Award voting. Oh gosh. Yankees don't know, and that's about as long as they have won a World Series. It is 2009 is the last time they won a World Series, but they won a bunch of World Series in seasons they didn't have the MVP. That 90s run where they won 4 out of 5 years, they didn't have an MVP on one of those teams. Jock Peterson and Martin Perez do accept qualifying offers. Good point, Drew. You can continue this conversation if you want, Kenny. I had a couple of moves I wanted to chat about here. It's a deadline. Cody Bellinger gets released, non-tendered, I should say, by the Dodgers. What a fall from grace here. You talk about former MVPs. Here's a guy who can't even hit 200 anymore. The Angels have acquired Gio Urshela from the Twins. Nice move for the Angels, but they might want to think getting a pitcher or two. Yankees are going to bring back IKF, but I guarantee you one of the kids is going to get a shot to play shortstop next year. The Mets acquire Hernandez and Brigham, 2 pitchers from the Marlins. What else is going on here? Kyle Lewis, former Rookie of the Year, has been moved to Arizona from Seattle in exchange for Cooper Hummel. Nick Martinez is going to return to the Padres. Teoscar Hernandez in a big trade, and maybe a sign that Toronto is going to be in play for somebody like Brandon Nimmo. Hernandez was traded to Seattle. Really good player. and a good fit for that Seattle team. Anthony Rizzo is returning to New York, as I may have mentioned, on a 2-year deal. I think worth $17 million per season. In a team buyout, by the way, or it might be a both-way buyout for $6 million in 2025. This will help the Yankees' pursuit of Aaron Judge, by the way, because they're very, very tight. Is that going to be the deciding factor? No. Money is. Jock Peterson, we just talked about. Martin Perez. Still think the Rangers were nuts for not trading Martin Perez, and then they could have gone out and signed him long-term. They didn't even sign him long-term now, right? He's got a 1-year deal now for $19 million. He'll be a free agent again. Rafael Montero with a nice 3-year contract extension, or a new contract, I guess, $34 million. A big piece of that bullpen. I don't see anything that'll excite me. I think we've talked about the other stuff with Clayton Kershaw coming back. Kyle Lewis, as you mentioned, Kyle Lewis, former MVP, really was a really good player. He's really dropped off recently, and the Mariners trade with Seattle is very interesting. And Met fans better watch out, because I think besides Colorado, you may now have a new contender for Brandon Nimmo. Going to be very sought after, very highly sought after. Got my blood going and maybe made you drink a little more only coffee, buddy. It's fine. You know what? Pushing my buttons is what makes this show go. Here's what's going to happen. One day I'm going to be like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Network, one of my favorite movies. Howard Beale was a highly a top news anchor, right? And it's a really crazy movie. But he goes off the deep end, and they end up shooting him on live on TV. And my head will probably explode during one of these Sunday shows. Teams making moves to clear space in their 40-man rosters for Rule 5. I didn't see a lot of really big names. I know the Yankees had a couple of guys. I don't know, Drew, whether there was any really big names that really came into play here. Maybe you know. Let me see if I can pull this up quick. Rule 5 players. Let's just try this. 36 players unprotected by the Braves. How do I get a list? That's November 12. Let me see. Yeah, I know how the Rule 5 works. I wanted a list of players, I guess. Thursday Tigers. Man, I can't get a good list. I was looking for a list of maybe, players we might know that had been let go. But anyway, what else you guys got on your mind before Mark Mancini pops in here? If he pops in, already 10:08. We talked about award winners here. We talked about some of the recent transactions. We can go anywhere. We can go back to college football. We can go to the NFL. You guys bring up some topics. You guys, this is your show. I want you to, here we go. Drew's got something here. I didn't see big names the other day. I was reading some stuff. TB very active in that regard. They always are. Tampa Bay's usually active in the Rule 5. And if you aren't familiar with the Rule 5, I mean, it's guys that, aren't on your 40-man roster and you leave open to this draft. And if you do take a guy, and unless the rules have changed, he's got to stay on your roster. So if the Yankees were to take a guy off of the Mets roster, just to use simple analogies, in the Rule 5 draft, he would have to stay on their roster the entire year, or he would could be lost. Broadcast news, good movie with less exposed loss of journalistic integrity. That was a good movie too. Network, I found. Look at what's funny about Network is when you watched it, And gosh, I think the movie came out in like 1980. I was like 20 years old. And you thought, my God, this is far-fetched, right? It's not all that far-fetched when you kind of look at some of the stuff that's on TV today. Now, nobody's been shot on live TV that I'm aware of. Like Howard Beale was, but I am angry as hell, and I'm not taking it anymore. Great line from that movie. Mad as hell about this Aaron Judge baloney. Sign the man already. Well, I just broke my pen. That's how mad I am. I just broke my pen. Just to talk about that for a second. Again, the Yankees have made a qualifying offer. Not a qualifying offer. They put an offer in front of him. We don't know what it is. Cashman's talked about this the other day. It's very little doubt this first offer, and they know they need to get out in front of this, but I guarantee it's not the offer that's going to be the last one. And when he turns it down, the Yankees are gonna let the world know what he said no to, so they can put him in a bad light. We're doing everything we can to resign him, but he's being unreasonable. Give him what he wants. Kenny probably won't agree with this, but I will tell you right now that Yankees need Aaron Judge. Yankees, as I've said 100 times, I don't care if they pay him $425 million for 10 years. I don't care. I don't care that they don't get any production out of him for the last 2 years or 3 years or whatever that contract is, because I'm going to get great production for the first 5 or 6. That's what you pay for. And people know that when they sign these long-term contracts. And this is such a total different situation than any other team in baseball, because the Yankees will make money off of him long after he retires and long after he's dead. They'll be selling his merchandise and making money. So $400 million, drop in the bucket. Augusta must be on a big delay. He's very happy his Ducks won, which I don't blame him. Sign him for what? He's all done. He won't hit 30. Wow, Kenny, you're not going to fire me up with just ridiculous comments. Quiz show. Truman Show, I wasn't so crazy about. Quiz show, great movie. We're getting on movies today. Quiz Show is a great movie. If you have watched it, expose the underbelly of the game show scandals back in the 50s. What do you got here? Oh, so these are. Bellinger's not in the Rule 5 though. We're just talking about untendered. So these guys are free agents now, right? Drew, we're not still on the Rule 5 thing, right? Big names, fairly big names, people that were non-tendered and will be free agents. Dom Smith, Cody Bellinger, I talked about earlier. Who's fallen faster and further than Cody Bellinger? Nobody. Oh my gosh. Luke Voigt. Listen, I was never a big fan of Luke Voigt, when he was with the Yankees. He had a couple big seasons, but I always knew that he would kind of probably fall backwards. And I hope you guys can't hear the vacuum running behind me. I should have shut my office door. Alex Reyes, who was hurt all last year, I believe. Reyes, Edwin Rios. A little surprising the Dodgers would release one of their. I think he's a good prospect, so I'm a little surprised at that. So, here's the thing: lots of Major League Baseball is trying, and they haven't done a great job of this, but they've tried to. I had somewhere here, damn it. I had a list of here it is. Nope, that's not it either. Where did I have that opened up? Baseball trying to stay relevant year round, and the NFL does, but they don't have the wherewithal to do it. The NFL does a better job of staying relevant 12 months a year than anybody. Baseball's trying to do it. They got their winter meetings in San Diego, but nothing happens there anymore. You don't have these big blockbuster trades like you used to have at the winter meetings. I mean, you'll get some free agents signed. We'll start seeing free agents signed as we get past Thanksgiving into December in these meetings. You got the Rule 5 draft December 7th, but that's not something that people really pay any attention to. You got the deadline for arbitration eligible players to submit salary figures. Arbitration hearings begin. Spring training begins. Does that sound like what how the NFL keeps themselves relevant 12 months a year? Not even close, man. Major League Baseball is shooting themselves in the foot. And then they're going to go in next year with all these rule changes. At least now, the one good thing is a runner on second base at the 10th inning goes away. Thank God. We would have missed out on some really good, fun, long postseason games if that were in effect during the postseason. My head would have really exploded then. So hopefully that rule's gone for good. I think it's supposed to be. But now we're going to have new stupid rules. Bigger bases. Why? Do away with the shift. Why? Teach guys to hit the way you're supposed to hit the ball. Hit it where they aren't. Hello? Don't keep hitting into the shift over and over again. What else? Pitch clocks. I don't know if that's going into effect or not. I know they tried it in the minor leagues. There are rules in baseball or ways to teach people how to play the game the right way that will both speed up the way the game's played and improve the way the game's played. But baseball and Rob Manfred would rather put new rules in. Kenny, Judge is showing what he's really all about. What? Getting as much money as he can? This is a capitalistic society, Kenny. You get what you deserve. If you don't deserve the money, nobody will pay you. If I had an offer twice my salary, I would go to that job tomorrow. I would give my employer a chance to I would give my employer a chance to match it, but they're not going to. First, and nobody's going to offer me double anyway. Not at this point in my career. But who doesn't? And don't blame. It's not just the players. Blame the owners. The owners are the one who pay the money. Blame the players' union. Aaron Judge has every right to capitalize and get every nickel he can for the talent and the value that he brings to a major league franchise, which, by the way, is far and above whatever they will pay. Fans can stop going to the ballpark. Fans can stop watching games. You can control it, but they don't do it. And TV contracts pay most of this money. And again, fans do pay money. They do pay the TV contracts, right? Because every time the TV contract goes up, whatever goes up. Cable goes up. Streaming services go up. Amazon gets football. My Prime is going up by $20 again this year. When I started getting Amazon Prime, I believe it was $50 a year. It's $139 next year. Still worth it. Just in the shipping I don't pay. Plus, there's a lot of great television there. And now Major League Baseball. It's a little different, though. And it depends on the team. Aaron Judge could sign with the Yankees for as much as he can get, and that wouldn't hurt their bottom line one bit. They can still go out and sign a top shortstop if they wanted to. They've got the money. Now, if Kansas City signs him for $50 million a year, well, they can't put a team around him. That's just the economics of baseball. No, because of the 70 rule, and don't ask. The only 70-30 rule I know is you listen 70% of the time and talk 30% of the time, which I obviously don't do on this show. I'm going to ask because you can't just throw that out there and not tell me what the hell you're talking about. Come on. Give me the context so that I can either argue or agree with you. There's every chance I'll agree with you. Do I think guys are overpaid? Not necessarily. I just don't. Because again, there's always dumb owners that want to pay him. And you're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay you. You just are. You want to live in a country where they want to control your salary? I don't. I want to earn whatever I can. IQ. I'm still lost, Kenny. Good link for tracking Major League Baseball. I've found a bunch of them. There haven't been a whole lot of big signings, so I haven't really been looking. I was just looking at ESPN today, but that's a good one. I think I was on that one. I think that's the one I've used in the past, Drew. So that is a good one. What else we got here today? What time is it, by the way? 10:21. We got a few more minutes if you guys. Kenny's going to tell me what this 70-30 is before I sign off. I got 8 minutes. Oh, gosh. Anthony, hope you didn't think I was yelling at you that time, Anthony. I do get worked up, right? But I have fun. I'm having fun. This is why I do this show. I do the show to have fun and debate. Again, do I think I'm right about anything? Everything? Even anything? No. I got a strong opinion, and I will. It's very hard to change my mind. I don't necessarily argue the point that players making so much money hurts fans. I get it. So do strikes. My glass is crooked. What the hell? All right, here we go. 70% under 100, 30% over. 70 go to games, 30 bitch about the cost. Oh, I see. Well, why is that such a big? Why wouldn't you share that? I don't like the cost. I don't go as often as I went, Ken. I used to go a lot. I used to go to Yankee games 10 times a year. We used to have season tickets in New England. I don't anymore because of the cost. So I'll stay home in the comfort of my home or go to a bar and hang with my friends and watch the games. My head is crooked. Is my head crooked? Mm-hmm. It still looks like my... Oh, God. What's that shiny thing over there? The Roadhouse to Serfdom by Frederick Hayes. What is that one? That seems like some heavy reading there, CA. I'll have to get into that one. Send me a... CA, you got to go to... by the way, I noticed I've invited you to like and follow TGI Sports Talk. You haven't done it yet. Please do it. And send it to your friends. Would you please do me that favor? And then send me this... I think we're friends now on Facebook, you and I, on my personal page, I think. If we're not, go find it and send me a request. Send me that. I would like to check it out. Listen, who takes offense? I don't take offense to what? The 70-30 rule or my opinion, your opinion? I could care less. I don't sit here worrying about offending people. Do I go out of my way to do it? No. But I'm also not going to bend the way I think so I don't offend people. That's why I refuse to call the Washington Commodores, the Lionel Richie team, the Washington Commodores. I know it's Commanders. Just not going to do it. I'm not going to call the Indians the Guardians. It probably offends a lot of people, and I'm sorry, but just the way I feel. Send me that because I'm going to lose track of this comments once I end the show. So send me that. Send me. I think I think you friended me or I friended you or something on Facebook. If not, go to my personal page or go to TGI Sports Talk and send me a message there if you would, and I'll take a look at that. certainly always for some light reading. It sounds like light reading there. Good day in the NFL today, right, guys? We're really starting to head down the stretch. As somebody said before, lots of great games coming up this week. Patriots and Patriots and Jets in New England. Huge game. I know it's week, only the 10th game for the Patriots, the 10th game for both teams. Huge game. Big implications in this game in the playoff race. This could have a huge effect later on in the season. We're getting to that point in the season, especially in college, pros, where there's lots of fun going on. And Kenny, by the way, you should thank me for all this Aaron Judge talk because it keeps you from trying to dive into the NBA, which I just don't want to. Probably get Jim Behringer on next week. Maybe I'll have him on Wednesday night, talk college football as well. We haven't had Jim on. It's hard for me to get into hockey this early in the season as well. I know the Devils are doing well. The Rangers are up and down. I know Rick is kind of getting on me to get Jim on, and I've fought it a little bit because I want to have plenty of time to do this, right? I want to debate the topics of the day with you guys and talk about the college football playoff implications and the good and the bad of the day before and dive into the NFL and the topics there and baseball. So once college football winds down, we'll dive more into hockey. I know that's not for everybody either. Man, we make it the lesser of two evils. Yeah. Jim's Devils Devils, by the way, 12 in a row. And by the way, this is a team that was not very good last year or even the year before. But a little while since they've been as relevant as they are now. 12 in a row. It's not easy to do in the world of the NHL. So we'll probably get him in to catch us up a little bit. Maybe next week. I don't know. Again, certainly nothing against Jim. I could get him in here to talk about college football. And I guess with that streak, maybe we're going to have to get him in here next week because it's hard for me to get into hockey till the calendar changes. I don't know. It's just me. And I guess I'm not a real man. Probably a good choice. I wonder if he wasn't forced to do that. I really think Hackett is going to have trouble keeping this job more than a year. It's possible Josh McDaniel will have trouble keeping his job more than a year. We'll get into that next week, maybe. Talking about maybe some of the coaches who are in trouble. You have come out to Kenny's and my opinion on the NBA. It's been hard, yes. Guys, I listen. I've had a love-hate relationship for the NBA with the NBA for a while. When the Knicks are good, I can get into it more. I really can, but it's very hard. And I know I want you guys to continue to participate the way that you do. Could I get some more views if I talk more NBA? Yes, because the NBA groups, I got a lot of them I belong to, but I'd rather talk about the things we want to talk about and enjoy myself than get a few hundred more views. Kenny, have a great day. My smile will not go away, buddy. I'm going to have fun, and you and I will argue about things because, you're passionate about things. I'm passionate about things, and this is the way the world's supposed to work. You should be able to argue and have fun, and we move back. Pretty sad commentary that Heineke is better. Yeah, isn't that the truth, Drew? Heineke's played decent football, but again, he's probably not taking his team anywhere deep. I do think they got a chance to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going anywhere should they get there. So we'll see. Well, guys, we got been a very good 2 hours. Great spirited debate. Comments. Kenny, I'm not certainly putting you down there. Anthony, sorry for yelling. I get passionate. I get going. So anyway, we'll be back next week. Catch us next week and catch the college football huddle. Catch Are You Serious? Catch the vlog next week. If you want more of my thoughts on Aaron Judge, just watch last week's vlog. There's 10 minutes of it. Guys, have a great Sunday. Enjoy the football today. Enjoy the great weather. Have a happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you before. Thank you for TGI Sports Talk. Catch you later.